Hi, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Thursday, April 26th. This will serve as our chart listing for today. Um, if you tried to go to the website, it's back up finally. It's kind of odd that our site was down for over a full day. Um, you still could find our videos, but it's still just kind of frustrating that our site was down. But anyway, it's back up and running. We're going to be moving to a different hosting service. I just felt like that was way too long for a website to be down uh, for any reason, whether it's just a place with information or whatever. But I've just never heard of a website being down for that long for the reasons they're stating. So my guess is it was something different and they just don't want to admit to it. But anyway, enough of that. Let's don't waste any time with it. Website's up now. We're going to be moving it to a different host. So a more reliable host. So hopefully that's the last time that ever happens. But anyway, let's get to the chart lesson. Here's the big picture. We had a short-term trend line right here. We had a break, a retest of the high, and then I don't know if you want to call that a correction, but prices chopped around for a little bit, and we finally got a trend line off of these two swings from here to here, and then we bounced again off of it there. So I felt pretty confident that let me just show you this in case you saw this too. My original trend line was there, and it appeared as if we might have had a break, but when we got this, I'm always moving my trend line around and double checking and double testing. So when I drew it off this one and we got another bounce right here, and then we got this setup right here, that really confirmed that trend line for me. So this turned out to be the setup of the day right here. And even if you didn't have this trend line, I'll show you how you could find that setup right there. That was a great setup, and you can see what happened. They trapped everybody, prices went higher, and this was really the only place to enter. It was really dangerous entering anywhere up through here. The only clue you had was if you cloned or copied this line and moved it up here, there was a chance that we were headed for that, but you never know if it's going to be this high right here. But generally it's going to be the the swing high where the price action is at, and it actually, I believe it was probably that swing right there. But it's very rare that prices are going to be this tight and then move that far. So generally you're going to have something more like this or this. But after looking at it after the fact at the end of the day, I believe that was your channel right there. And if you'd have known that ahead of time, you'd have known that there was a lot of room to the upside to go there. But needless to say, it's hard to determine that, and it's not always 100% correct. So that's the way I had mine drawn for the day, and it still alerted me of when to get out. I got out a little bit early on my runners. I exited on this move right here, and you can see that was a dumb idea because we went a couple of points higher. But hey, when you can enter down here around 88 and you can ride this to 95, that's a pretty good move in anybody's book. And you can't always get the whole move. If it was that easy to do, everybody'd be making thousands of dollars every day. It's not that easy. So but anyway, let's talk about the trades. There were quite a few setups early, and there just wasn't much going on later because prices were just steadily moving. And like I said, entering short up here is dangerous because you're counter trend trading. But on the other hand, entering long up here is very dangerous because prices are way overbought and we're way overdue for a correction. And you can see what happened when we finally did break higher here, and we broke out the top of this trading range, trapped everybody that thought we'd probably go higher, and then prices sold off. This is obviously in the overnight, and so they can make that look like a lot stronger move down than it may actually be because that's in the overnight. We're not worried about that anyway. Really, we're not much worried about what happened from this point over. Although I did mark this trade here. But let's start over here at the beginning. Let me back out a little bit. Somebody asked me one day how I do this when I make the chart go in and out. I'm often asked stuff like that, little tidbits. But to make your chart go in and out like that, hold down the control button and then push your up and down arrow. So maybe you learned something today, even if you don't learn anything about trading. But let's talk about our first trade here. We had our first long. We had this little at the time, I wasn't sure if this wasn't going to be the trend line for the day, but it turned out just to be a temporary trend line. And let me back out so you can see the bigger picture while we talk about that. But once you see this, and then you see this correction, and you see this other one, that's another clue that I didn't tell you about. You know, you figure that this next leg is going to be similar to this first leg right here. And if you draw that and take it over here, you can see that was close, but prices were just really strong and continued to work higher before they sold off. So that was giving me a clue of why. That's another reason I exited right in there. So I forgot to mention that a second ago. But again, I hold down my control button and hit my arrow and back out here just so we can see a little better. But in the early morning, I wasn't sure if this was the trend line or not, and it was a trend line, but I wasn't sure if it was going to be a major trend line or whatever. By the time the day was over, I would say it was probably a minor trend line, and your main trend line was right here, and the rest of this is really a trend channel. And here's your highs and here's your lows. Actually, like I said, I think that was your highs, and but definitely this is your main trend line right here. So let's talk about the trades. This is a breakout pullback long. What you would have had was these highs right here. Prices broke out, failed, like we always expect they do. So we never enter on the breakout. We wait for a breakout pullback like this. And when prices bounced off that trend line, going long right here was okay, with the exception that with the expectation that we're probably coming up here to this high. And you can see, you know, that's eventually where we started getting more and more resistance when we got there. And then if you come up here and draw your line across there, you can see we did get a little temporary double top, and then prices broke above that and then failed, just like we would expect, and came back. And there was actually a short right here, but again, that would be counter trend trading. There was no break of this trend line, so I didn't mark that trade. I don't know if any of you took it, but if you did go short right here, this is a nice trap. Whenever you start to get way away from the EMA like this, like prices are here, and you get some overlap, as soon as prices break above that, if you get a nice setup bar like this right here, that's usually good for prices pulling back to the EMA. And so that was a decent setup. If you waited down here to go short, which you probably should have, you had to ride this out a minute, but you see prices ended up selling off. But I didn't take that myself. It's too dangerous. But if you did see it, it's somewhat of a trap, and it wasn't a bad setup. You were better off, since there was no trend line break, just to stay clear. And this will show you why you want to wait on your second entry, because if you'd went long right there, which it looks good bouncing off that trend line, you would have got trapped. But that's why I'm always telling you, in the ES, you almost always have to wait for a second entry, because they're going to trick you once or twice before prices really move. And then your next setup was down here. There was a long right here. We actually had a double bottom right there, as you can see. And you might have even drawn it like that right there at the time. Remember, you won't see this other price action out here. So that's what that would be looking like right there. And so you could have gone long here or here. But this was the better setup, because it's getting you long right at the very low of the support area, with trap shorts more than likely, and you can see it was an easy scalp. And as long as you had your stop below either one of those bars, you survived, and could have got a couple of points out of it, even on your runners. So this was a second entry long right here, and if you took this one was okay too, but I wasn't sure if prices, you actually should have moved this down here. So if you went long right here, this was okay too. This actually should have been all the way over here, because there's two setups here. You got this first one right here, and this is definitely a trading range now. So let me just draw that across here for you and show you. We're definitely in a trading range now. So going long right here is okay for that reason. Or I'm sorry, right here is okay. That's a second entry long as well. It took this a minute to take off, but all the same, as long as you had your stop below your entry bar, everything was great. And even if you waited for that bar, but by the time you saw that bar, it was really too late, and it was another doji. And so I wouldn't have recommended going long right there. And you see it didn't go very far before it pulled back. But if you saw it, this little doji right at the lows, that's when it's okay to go long or short below a doji, when they're at a strong support or resistance and they're tiny right near the support or resistance area. So this was a good long, but it was if you missed this one, here was your chance to enter again, and you could have entered above, even above this bar, but this one actually touched and it had a green body, so right there was the best place to go long. And on a bigger picture, that's a second entry too. If you were to back out to a bigger chart, we don't do that, but you have to learn to spot it on this chart. You see there's one leg down, your first attempt to go higher, a pull back, and then your second attempt. So this is a great second entry long on a larger picture coming off this trend line. And this second touch here verified that touch. And so going long right here was a pretty good trade with expectations. We're at least going to here. We may go higher. You never know. But if you were smart, you probably exited in here and waited to re-enter here. So this was two good longs right here. Now this was the trade of the day, and let me show you this one. By this time you should have had your lows across here, and you would have known your trend line. I mean, you should have definitely had a trend line off that low and those two swings right there, and you would have been expecting that if prices touched here, that they'd probably bounce, if nothing else, just to come back to right here. I mean, I wasn't expecting this big move, I'll be honest with you. You never know what's coming, but you should have been expecting prices to come back and test this high, just like they did right here, and then start putting your stop below here if prices reverse. But as you can see, no matter where you put it, it never got filled, and you could have just kept moving your stop up all the way, and at the very worst you would have gotten stopped out right here. But by the time we got here, I was giving it more room because we hadn't yet touched this line yet, and I was looking for it to touch that line. I don't even have it drawn exactly right. So I was expecting it to test this little high, maybe break out and fail like it did, and then I was going to exit, so I exited right there. So a lot of times that's what I'll do. If I'll either exit on the first break below a bar, or I may wait and say, okay, I'm going to wait for the second break, because here's your first break, and all it did was just trap out a bunch of people, and they took it higher again. So if you waited to your second one, it was right there, and you got out almost at the high of that move. Of course, it did go higher yet, but you would have gotten most of the move that way. So this was a great setup, and again, there's more than one reason to enter that trade right here. Even if you didn't have your trend line, you got this trading, oops, wrong one there. You got this trading range right here, whether you drew it there or there, however. But you got that trading range, and this is a failed break out the low side, and that's what we're looking for, because the trend has been up. We've been, you know, even these pullbacks here are making higher lows and higher highs, and so we're looking for reasons to get long. And if you had your trend line, there was more than one reason, but at the very least you can see there's a one leg back, a move up, a second leg back. That's a second entry long on a smaller time frame, because you see how tight that is. And again, the expectation, we were at least coming to here, so there's enough room to scalp out. But wow, what a move. I wish we could catch one of those every day, and life would be nice. But and if you missed it right here, that's the sad thing about it. There's really not a safe entry all the way up. And you know, even if you'd have bought it here, you'd have made money. But boy, that's dangerous buying this kind of stuff. So you have to catch it at a place like this, the key entry points. And if you did buy in somewhere in here and you made some money, all you probably did was reinforce a bad habit, because next time it'll come up here and you'll buy in and prices will turn down like that right there, and you'll give back all your money and lose some money, and it's just not a wise trade. So that's why there's no, you know, even though that's still going higher, that's why I didn't show any more trades up there, because it's getting really dangerous to go long up in there. We want to get long at the lows and we want to get short at the highs. So anyway, last trade, this one was real iffy on the time here. It's after 2:30, but I thought I would show it just because it's just a repeat of this right here. It's just a bigger pattern. And if you draw this line up here, all that is a, or you might have even drawn it right there, all that is a trading range with a failed break out the high and then a failed break out the low with the trend. and it's right at the EMA and all. So that's a great long with the expectation that prices are coming up here. And so if you were still trading, which I don't recommend trading this late, definitely I never enter after 2:30. That's one of my rules. And I really don't like to enter after 2. In fact, I don't even like to trade in the afternoon. I like to be done by noontime. But sometimes the market cooperates, sometimes it doesn't. And I'll trade up to about 1:30, 2 o'clock. And every once in a blue moon, now if I'm already in a trade like this and prices are still going my way, I'll trade it right up to 3 o'clock. But I just don't recommend entering new trades after 2:30, and I'd really stick to the 2:30 because what happens is the market will get real emotional right there near the close, and some crazy things can happen, and they're usually not in your favor. So just be careful entering that time of day. But anyway, it's 15 minutes here. That's all the trades for the day. I'll back out to the big picture to give you one more shot of it. And of course, you can always go back and watch this video over again. But it was a pretty good day, and I hope you had a good trading day. And I hope you have a better one tomorrow. And this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. We'll see you next time.